Blessings, beloved. It's your sis, Aisha Rahman. Welcome back to my channel. In this series of videos, I'm going to be sharing everything that I know about genetic genealogy testing. So a little housekeeping. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes on my computer, and hopefully the fan isn't too loud. So let's go ahead and dive straight into the video. So as I said, in this series of videos, I'm going to be sharing everything that I know about genetic genealogy, also known as like ancestry testing. I'm going to be talking about the types of testing options that you have, the companies that you can test with, what I think about these companies, and which companies I think you should test with and why. So disclaimer, I am not a geneticist. I'm not a scientist at all. I'm actually just an entrepreneur. I'm a genealogy hobbyist. I have a bachelor's degree in business, and I am also a recent graduate. I just graduated with my master's degree in library science and information technology. And I specialize actually in the management, digitization, and preservation of cultural and heritage records and artifacts, which often includes genealogy and genealogy research. So if anything that you learned today is of value, great, please share it. And if there are any mistakes that I make, feel free to comment them below. I'm not a professional. This is just what I'm learning, and I'm sharing what I'm learning with the hopes that it might inspire others, or just to encourage and support others like myself that are on this similar journey. If you are not new to my channel, then you know that I started my genealogy journey about 20 years ago. It started with my paternal grandmother's side. A family tree was done, and that had been done, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years before it was passed down to me, which I then continued with my family tree, doing that research. So there was a family reunion that we did every other year, or like every 3 years. And the person that was doing the genealogy research was getting kind of burned out and was like, hey, who wants to take this on? I volunteered as tribute, and the rest is history. So as I was doing that research, I found that, so that was my dad's side of the family. So when I took the project on, I also added on my mom's side, so my mom's mother and my mom's father's side. So as I'm doing this research, I was always curious about my paternal grandfather. That branch of the tree had been completely missing. The information that I had been given, that I learned while doing my research, actually most of it was untrue. And I did not learn the truth about who my paternal grandfather was, or even that side of my family, until I started with genetics. So my first video that I did on YouTube, which was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, is a live video of me reading my Ancestry.com test results. So I took the DNA tests and I was reading the results, sharing them with my husband, and then I also called my dad on that video, sharing the results with them. Since that time, that testing, many of my family members have also tested, or they have allowed me to test them to help with my genealogy research. So they were more so just being supportive of me. Some of them are not really into it, but they agreed to, hey, sure, I'll get my DNA tested for your research to help you. So I will show here, these are my Ancestry.com test results. I'm gonna go a little bit off topic to make a point. So as I mentioned before, my background is in business and information technology. And I believe that when I talk about these things, I know without a doubt what I'm talking about. So for one, when you're testing with a company, you need to, one, look at their terms of agreements. Make sure that you understand them, and make sure that you agree to them before signing up. Before giving them any of your money, you can look at their terms and agreements. Sometimes this includes whether they share your information, whether they don't share your information, whether you can opt out of that information being shared, and who that information is being shared with. The second thing is you need to consider who their target market is. So in my opinion, we are not Ancestry.com's target market. I say this because in addition to their DNA testing, they also have archival records, they also do heritage tours, they also will do genealogy research on your behalf. So if you're stuck or something, or if you just don't have the time, they will actually do genealogy research for you. And then they have heritage tours, as I was mentioning. Now, when it comes to Africans of the diaspora, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in the US, whether you're in Jamaica or Trinidad, you will see that this is not who we are generally marketed to. You can look on their website, you can look at their copy, like their text that they have written, their social media, the photos that they send, their marketing materials throughout the whole year. You will find that we are pretty much marketed to during February, and that's pretty much it. You can't be, when it comes to business, you cannot be all things to everybody. You have to pick a niche and really hone in on that niche, and you will find, and you can find out who Ancestry.com's target market is. Even if you look at like their mission and what they're about, look at who their staff is. This will tell you a lot about a company and who its target market is, or even what the purpose of its testing is for. So you have other companies that are in competition with Ancestry.com, and they, I won't say separate themselves, but they distinguish themselves based on what they specialize in. They may offer the same type of testing or similar testing, but their area, their niche of what they're specializing in is going to be different. And so therefore their marketing materials and even maybe their target market is going to be different, because that is something that you really need to consider when you're selecting the company that you're selecting to test with. So if we look at Ancestry.com's website, I'm going to take directly from their copy, from their information on their website. They say that that the autosomal testing that they can provide for you has several features or several benefits. One, insights about your family's origin, including geographic regions, and they can also help you connect with your DNA relatives, and they can help you explore DNA inheritance by parent with ethnicity inheritance, matches inheritance, and traits inheritance. So you have to really understand what those words, geographical region and inheritance, what that means. So when it comes to the type of testing that they offer, autosomal testing, that's really all they can do, is they can tell you about traits that have been inherited from DNA, and they can tell you geographical regions from which those traits originated from, not countries and not ethnicities. Your geographical region is entirely different. So autosomal DNA testing is a type of testing that looks at 23 of your 23 chromosomes from both of your parents. So the 23rd chromosome is just your X or Y. It determines if you're a boy or a girl genetically, and scientists are now discovering that's a little different. So I'm not even going to get into that, but sometimes you may present as a girl and look like a girl, but actually not have a girl chromosome. I'm not a geneticist, so I'm not going to get into that, but that's something that scientists are discovering. So you may find that when you're taking your DNA testing that your chromosomes don't actually quite match up, or sometimes you might have both. So this type of testing provides information, like I said, about your ancestral lines, not just your mother and your father, but your whole, I won't say your whole entire line. It depends on the number of segments that has been tested. So you can check with your company that you're getting tested, how many segments are they checking within those chromosomes. And it will check your mother, your mother's mother, your mother's father, your father's mother, your father's mother, kind of like rolling a dice. So when you roll a dice, you get bits and pieces of different people. So let's say a dice was rolled and you got brown hair and hazel eyes, but maybe neither of your parents has hazel eyes. That is because traits skip generations. Just because you have a trait doesn't mean that your child is going to get the trait. And oftentimes both parents have to have the same trait for a child to inherit that trait because it's recessive. For example, I use my daughter as an example often because she's one of the reasons that I also got interested in DNA testing. Is my daughter, my father's brother, and one or two of my grandmother's sisters has bright red hair. I don't have red hair. My husband doesn't have red hair. In order for my daughter to have inherited red hair, both my husband and I had to have had the red hair gene. However, that gene or that trait does not show up physically on my husband or myself or any of my two boys. So any of my other children. None of us have red hair except for her. And this is because that genetic trait showed up in my daughter physically that she inherited from me and my husband, yet I don't have red hair. My grandmother doesn't have red hair. My husband nor his mom or dad have red hair. So that trait had to come from somewhere else down the line and show up physically in my daughter. So this is kind of how autosomal works. Is it's like rolling a dice and you get bits and pieces of different traits that you inherit down the line. So for African Americans, autosomal testing can be helpful because of the complex history of slavery. So often people ask me, how did your daughter get red hair? There are some people of African descent that have red hair. There are some Africans, depending on the country, that actually have blue eyes. It's very common, I've learned, in Nigeria. So I've done a bit of research on the different ethnicities in Nigeria because I also have of Igbo Nigerian or Igbo ethnicity. So being Nigerian and being Igbo is totally two different things. I'll get into that a bit much later. But basically, your autosomal testing can give you information, especially like slavery. So like my results, you'll see, had like 14% this or 2% that. And that is because of slavery. So I feel like people are very ignorant when they ask certain questions. I'm assuming that the red hair my daughter has is not from an African ethnicity, that it's probably from some European ethnicity. That's what I'm assuming. Can't be 100% true. It would take probably time for me to understand genetics and look at that line and follow it as far as it goes to figure out exactly where it came from. DNA testing can help you to identify your African ancestry as well as other populations. So you'll see, oh, you have 10% this and 2% that. So it's a mix of different ethnicities based on what that company has tested and how many people have tested with that company that come from that region. So if you do not have a lot of Native Americans testing with that company, you're not going to get, anyone who takes the test is not going to get those type of results because, one, it's not in the system, it's not in the database for the algorithm to do its thing to even give you that as an option. So that's one of the things you have to consider is not only the type of testing that you're taking, but how large is the database, what regions are in that database, who's testing with that company. So I believe Ancestry.com has the largest database, which kind of just means that if you take the test, you're more likely going to have more DNA matches, not necessarily that your results are going to be better results or more truthful results, I guess you could say. Secondly, you want to look at the level of detail in the results. So as I mentioned, in my results, or rather in Ancestry.com's company, they offer regional inheritance. They'll give you regional, not specific countries and not ethnicities. And then of course you want to look at what your budget is. So the other thing is you will notice that there are often updates to your testing. And this is again because Ancestry.com, the database is ran based on an algorithm. It's who is in their system, who is in their database. So There was one year I was looking at my mom's test results, and it showed that she was like 3% Chinese or something like that, or 0.3%. And then the next time that I logged in, it was completely gone. And this is because the system has updated, or the algorithm has updated. And usually you'll see at the top of the website, it'll tell you, oh, you have new updates, or something has changed, or something has been updated within the system. And when you look at those updates, you will find that your testing results have actually changed. And you might have people within your list of matches that weren't there before. Or you may have results that were there that are completely gone, and matches that were there that are completely gone. Yes, entire people disappear off of your matches. Maybe they're further down, like 6th or 7th cousins that are on your list. So one thing that I do want to make clear that people often ask me is, can I use these results for my Sierra Leone citizenship or some other country? My answer is probably going to be probably not, but you can go ahead and try. You can get in contact with whatever ministry is in charge of that country. So for Sierra Leone, it's the Monuments and Relics Commission and the Ministry of Tourism that is in charge of that. The reason being is, like I said, is autosomal testing does not share ethnicities, nor does it really share countries. Like you'll see the Western Bantu people. That's not an ethnicity, and it's not a country. Or you'll see like West Africa or West African region. My results even say Ghana on my results, and Senegal, depending on which company test I'm looking at. So I'll do another video and kind of do a comparison, because I've taken tests with several different companies, and show you and explain why do I have all these different results with different companies. Why are they different? So I like to explain it is that my Ancestry and my Ancestry.com results don't show Sierra Leone. They don't show Mende or Temne ethnicity. And the reason is because Sierra Leone is equivalent to being an American. It's not an ethnicity, it's a country. And it just means that a person was born there. So for example, you have Hispanic people born in the United States, you have Asian people, Indian people, Arab people, Native people. You have a lot of people in the United States. We are all American, but we don't share ethnicity. So Sierra Leone is also like a big cosmopolitan country. You have people from Nigeria there. You have people that are from Ghana there. You have people that are from Guinea-Bissau there. You have people from the US that are there. So they've all migrated there, and those are their countries that they've originated from. But you will find their ethnicities: the Yoruba, the Igbos, the Mende, the Temne, the Fula, the Creole, there's even Lebanese or Chinese people in Sierra Leone that were born there. They're all Sierra Leonean, but they all have different ethnicities. Ancestry.com is not going to give you results like that, and that is why these countries will not, most of them will not accept autosomal testing. So it's not the company per se, it's the type of test that you are taking, and therefore you're going to get different results. Another example that I like to share is I have one side of my family that's from New Orleans, and then they moved to California. And then I have another side of my family that's from the DMV area, and then they moved to California. Ancestry.com has a few new features where you can actually see the migration patterns. So my results show, oh hey, you have people that lived in this area, they lived in this DMV area, and then they moved here, and then they migrated there. So your matches, because it's based on an algorithm, your DNA matches with other people who have also taken this test that are in our system that have matches that kind of lived in this area, in the DMV area. And then it will tell you in this time period, this is what was going on in this area of the United States at the time. So it'd be like, during the 1950s, this is what's going on in Virginia, and during the 1960s, this is what's going on in Maryland, things like that. So this is a new feature. And another more recent feature is you can actually search people by locations. I can say, show me all the people that are in Virginia. However, that's the other thing about testing, about any DNA test that you're taking, is it's giving you the results based on the people that live there today. So even my Sierra Leone African ancestry results are based on DNA tests of the people that are there today, not the people that were there maybe 200, 300, 400 years ago, which people move. And that's the point, is your matches that you're seeing are people that currently live in that region or that country or that area today. I would say, how old is genetic testing? Like 100 years old or less. Maybe even not even that. Maybe 40, 50 years old is how old genetic testing is. So the test results that we're getting, it's important to note that they are matches of people who lived there today, unless you are on a site like GEDmatch. GEDmatch is another site because it's another great option, because they often have DNA that they're testing from hundreds, even 1,000 years ago, that you can then match yourself to. So that's my final opinion, guys, is that autosomal testing is great to find matches. If you are looking for parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, first generation all the way to, I believe, like 6th, even 7th generation cousins, autosomal testing, I won't say ancestry.com, but autosomal testing is really good for that. I mostly use ancestry.com or companies that have autosomal databases for genetic matching, to see who I'm related to and to connect with those people. And then with ancestry.com for their archival records that they have connected through the National Archives. I do not suggest that you use autosomal testing from any country if you want to know a specific country or your ethnicity of your ancestors, regardless of your background, even if you're not of African descent. Ancestry.com tends to target European ethnicities and European, or shall I say, European regions. European regions and inheritance, that's what the bulk of their database is. And so I would say being European is not necessarily an ethnicity. It is a region, it's an area, but there are different types of Europeans. So I don't suggest autosomal testing for anyone of any ethnicity if you want to know your ethnic background. Ancestry.com or any other company is just not going to give you those types of results. That's pretty much it for this video, guys, about autosomal testing. The next video in my series, I will be talking about MTD.